Hey everyone, tonight we'll delve into the unsolved case of Arthur Finch, a man who, by all accounts, simply disappeared from a house designed to be a fortress. Imagine you're standing in the grand foyer of his sprawling modernist mansion, a place of clean lines and stark geometry. The rain outside is a constant drumming whisper against the floor-to-ceiling windows. And every footstep on the polished concrete echoes with an unsettling finality. No, this isn't just a house. It's a cold, silent monument to a man's life. And it's a crime scene that defies every logical explanation. There is no broken window, no forced door, not even a single fingerprint out of place. It's as if a ghost walked through solid walls. You probably won't want to be alone after this. So, before the tension gets too high, take a moment to like the episode and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Now, if you're comfortable, feel free to post your location and the local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights. Perhaps grab a cup of coffee, and let's unravel this mystery together. The initial report came in as a wellness check. Finch's business partner, a man named Marcus Thorne, had grown concerned after several days of unanswered calls. Police arrived to find the home eerily quiet. The front door was locked. The sophisticated security system was armed and fully functional, and all the windows were secured. It was, for all intents and purposes, a sealed box. The first responding officers were a bit skeptical, assuming Finch was simply on an unannounced trip. But a quick check of the garage revealed his car still there, keys on the hook beside the door. It was the first clue that something was profoundly wrong. When detectives took over, they found the situation even more perplexing. They initiated a search of the entire property, a standard procedure in missing persons cases. Looking for any sign of a struggle or a forced entry, they meticulously documented everything from the meticulously arranged bookshelf in the library to the untouched coffee mug on the kitchen counter. A mainstream forensic fact you'd learn is that in cases like this, police use a grid search pattern to ensure no area is left unexamined, turning over every cushion and checking every closet. They're looking for trace evidence, stray hair, a smear of dirt, anything that speaks of an unexpected presence. But here the only evidence was the absence of everything. It was as if a ghost had indeed passed through and tidied up after itself. The crime scene itself was a paradox. Arthur Finch was a man obsessed with control and precision. His home was a testament to that. A brutalist monument of concrete and glass, a stark contrast to the verdant Oregon forest that surrounded it. Every detail of the house was meticulously planned, from the automated lighting that responded to a person's presence to the soundproofed walls in his study. Yet in this fortress of his own making, he had vanished. One quirky detail that stood out to the first detective on the scene was the single, perfectly centered tulip on the dining room table. It seemed mundane, but it was out of place. Finch's wife, Eleanor, had a well-known allergy to tulips. It was a small thing, but in a home so immaculately composed, a detail like that screams. It's a bit like a misplaced comma in a perfectly written sentence. It might seem insignificant, but it changes the entire meaning. But the key question remained. How could a man disappear from a house with no sign of a break-in and no evidence of a struggle? His wallet and keys were still in the house. His phone was on the nightstand, its last call made to his business partner hours before he was reported missing. It was as if he'd simply walked out the front door and ceased to exist. You're left standing in the silent foyer, the rain a rhythmic percussion against the glass. And you can't shake the feeling that you are missing something monumental. The house feels like an empty stage after the main actor has left. But where did he go? You're standing in the middle of a perfectly manicured lawn, the scent of damp earth and clipped grass heavy in the air. The Finch mansion looms above you, an architectural statement of confidence and control. But as you step inside, the sterile silence feels less like a design choice and more like a warning. The place is pristine, almost unnervingly so. The floors gleam, the surfaces are dust-free, and not a single book on the shelves is out of alignment. It's a house without a soul, a stage set for a play that was canceled mid-performance. This lack of personal chaos is a strange clue in itself. People don't vanish without disturbing a single object, do they? It's a baffling detail that sticks with you. Your first official act as lead detective on this perplexing true crime case is to methodically re-examine the house, starting with the main entry point. You'd think the front door would be a good place to start, but the advanced security system tells a different story, according to the log. The alarm was armed at 10:17 p.m., the night before Finch was reported missing. It was never disarmed. In police procedure, this is a crucial piece of forensic evidence. A secured perimeter with no forced entry points to a secure home almost always points to one thing: a suspect who had a key. Or more likely, someone who was invited in, but who would Finch invite over, and why? More importantly, how would they leave without setting off the alarm? As you move through the house, you can't shake the eerie feeling that you're not alone. It's not in a supernatural sense, but in the sense that you're walking through a space designed to be observed, a place with eyes everywhere. Finch had an extensive network of motion-activated cameras, both inside and out. The feeds from these cameras were routed to a central hub in his study, a hub that, upon investigation, was found to have been completely wiped. Every single minute of footage from the last 72 hours was gone, not just deleted but completely overwritten. It was a digital ghost, a perfectly executed erasure. A quirk of this crime scene is how cleanly the suspect, or suspects, covered their tracks. They didn't just delete the files. They went a step further, using a specific type of software to ensure the data was unrecoverable. It speaks to a very specific skill set, maybe one an architect would have. You make your way to the master bedroom. It's minimalist and orderly. A half-full glass of water sits on the nightstand. His wallet and keys, as previously noted, are on the dresser. His phone is there too, still on the charger. There's a pair of shoes by the bed, as if he simply stepped out of them. There's a book lying open on the bed, a biography of a famous historical figure known for their secretive nature. The last page read is marked with a simple bookmarker slip of paper with a drawing of a small V. Geometric symbol you don't recognize. Forensic teams are now at work swabbing surfaces for DNA. Lifting fingerprints from doorknobs and light switches and sifting through wastebaskets. This is the grunt work of a detective story. It's not glamorous. It's methodical, meticulous, and often yields nothing. They'll also be examining the ground outside for footprints, checking for tire tracks, and looking for any disturbance in the manicured landscaping. The absence of any of these is just as telling as their presence. But the most pressing question remains. If Finch didn't leave on his own accord, and there was no sign of a struggle, what happened to him? Was he incapacitated and carried out? Was he lured away by a voice he trusted? Or was this a theatrical, carefully planned exit? The house itself offers no answers. It stands as a silent witness, a monument to a perfect crime. You find yourself in Arthur Finch's study, a room that feels like the nerve center of his life, and now his disappearance. The air here is still, thick with the scent of old paper and wood polish. The room itself is a work of minimalist art, with an expansive desk made of a single slab of polished redwood, and bookshelves that span from floor to ceiling, filled with tomes on architecture, design, and history. It's in this room that you find the first true anomaly, a detail that breaks the perfect stillness of the crime scene. Your eyes are drawn to the desk. It's a clean surface, devoid of the usual clutter of a busy professional, but it's what isn't there that's important. The office safe, a state-of-the-art vault hidden behind a revolving bookshelf, stands ajar. It's a sophisticated piece of equipment that requires a complex biometric scan and a two-factor authentication code. It was not forced open. The combination was entered correctly, but the safe is empty. All the usual documents, passports, birth certificates, deeds to property, and valuable blueprints are gone. This level of access and preparation points to one of two things: a highly skilled professional thief who knew the system, or someone close to Finch who had the code. The safe's logs show it was opened 2 hours before the security system was armed, which creates a new and unsettling timeline. And there, right in the center of the redwood desk, is a small, folded piece of paper. It's not a note, not in the traditional sense. It's a single sentence, written in Finch's own elegant, looping hand. The design is complete. Nothing more. No signature, no date, no explanation. It's a ghostly note, a final whisper in a house of silence. It's a bizarre detail that defies any rational explanation. Was it a message for his killer? A final act of defiance? Or was it a clue for his would-be rescuer? A breadcrumb trail left for someone who knew how to interpret his cryptic language? A forensic handwriting expert will be brought in to analyze the note, looking at the pressure points, the slant of the letters, and the unique quirks of Finch's penmanship. This is a classic police procedure. Experts can determine if the note was written under duress, or if it was composed calmly, perhaps even theatrically. They'll also check the paper and ink for any foreign materials, any microscopic fibers or trace DNA that might link it to a specific person. The paper itself is an expensive, custom-made vellum, the kind Finch would have used for his most prized blueprints, the kind of paper you wouldn't use for a quick note. You're a detective trying to solve a true crime case, and you feel like you're rereading the first page of a novel written in a language you can't quite understand. The ransacked safe and the cryptic note are the first pieces of the puzzle, but they don't seem to fit together. Why take all the personal documents but leave a bizarre note behind? Was the note meant to distract, or was it the real key to the mystery? The entire scene feels staged, like a grand performance with an invisible audience. But the central question remained. What did the note mean? The design is complete. Was it a reference to a building, a project, or something far more personal and sinister? The ambiguity is intentional. It's a riddle, a taunt from a brilliant, disappearing mind, and it's the only thing you have to go on. You are now standing in the heart of the mystery, and the trail is already growing cold. Your investigation into the vanished architect's life and work quickly leads you to his office, a separate building on the property designed with the same minimalist starkness as his home. It's here, among the neatly stacked portfolios and the glow of his computer monitors, that you find the blueprint for his final, unfinished project. It's an intricate design for a new state-of-the-art museum, a true architectural masterpiece in the making. But as you pore over the plans, a bizarre detail emerges, something that no one else on the team seems to have noticed. Among the meticulously drawn schematics for the museum's galleries and public spaces, you find a small labeled section on a single page. It's a room, a small antechamber, located just off the main vault. The room has no doors leading into it, no windows, and no ventilation shafts. It's simply a small box of a space, a phantom room that exists on the blueprint, but could not possibly exist in reality. It's the kind of mistake that a rookie architect might make. But Finch was a legend, a man who once built a rotating house on a remote cliffside. He didn't make mistakes like this. The inclusion of this impossible room is a deliberate design choice, a cryptic detail left behind for someone who would know how to read it. A police procedure you'd perform at this point is a forensic analysis of the digital files. You'd have a technician check the metadata of the blueprint file, looking for any recent changes, any hidden layers, or any encrypted notes. Modern architectural software can embed all sorts of information into a file, from the material costs to the precise date and time a line was drawn. This is where you would look for a digital fingerprint, a clue that might lead you to who last worked on the file or what they were looking for. The file is clean, pristine. But the phantom room remains, a baffling piece of evidence that suggests Finch was playing a very specific kind of game. This peculiar detail, this room to nowhere, is a quirky detail of the case. It feels less like an oversight and more like a riddle. Why would an architect, a master of logic and precision, design a room that is inaccessible? Was it a joke, a test, or a clue meant for only one person? It's a question that hangs in the air, just like the scent of ozone from the computers. You spend hours examining the blueprint and you begin to notice a pattern. The impossible room is located at a convergence point of several structural elements. It's a geometric puzzle waiting to be solved. You can shake the feeling that the key to Finch's disappearance is you can in what he built. But in what he intentionally didn't build, in the spaces between the lines. The design is complete, as the note said. But what was the design for? Was it for the museum, or for something else entirely? The key question remained. Was the phantom room a clue, secret message hidden in plain sight, or a red herring designed to send you down a rabbit hole? This is the kind of unsolved mystery that frustrates detectives and captivates audiences. You're left with a blueprint that offers more questions than answers, a design for a building that can't exist, the growing conviction that Arthur Finch didn't just disappear, he designed his own escape. The trail of evidence, or lack thereof, has led you to the most obvious and yet most enigmatic person in this whole mystery, Arthur Finch's wife, Eleanor. She sits across from you in a stark, white-walled room at the police station. She's dressed in a simple, elegant black suit, her demeanor a study in quiet composure. She hasn't shed a tear, hasn't raised her voice, and hasn't shown a single flicker of panic or distress. This serene control is a bizarre detail in itself. While people grieve in different ways, her placidness in the face of her husband's inexplicable disappearance is unsettling. She looks at you with calm, unblinking eyes, as if she's the one in control of the investigation. Eleanor's story is simple and, on the surface, airtight. She tells you they had a quiet dinner together. Arthur went into his study to work on his latest project around 9 p.m. She went to bed an hour later, leaving him to his work. She recalls hearing him move around the study for a while, but then she fell asleep. When she woke up the next morning, he wasn't there. His side of the bed was untouched, the sheets perfectly smooth. She assumed he had gone out for an early morning walk, a habit of his. She only became concerned when he didn't return by noon. You ask her about the security system? She confirms that Arthur always armed it before he went to bed. You ask about the safe in his study? She claims not to know the combination and never knew what he kept in it. She says the safe was a point of contention between them. Thor was obsessively private about his work and his affairs. This adds another layer to the enigma, a potential motive, a potential secret life. A standard police procedure at this point is a polygraph test, a common tool in the detective's arsenal, although its results are not admissible in court. It's used to establish a baseline of truthfulness and to see if the subject is being deceptive when asked specific, pointed questions. When asked about her knowledge of her husband's disappearance, her answers are calm, direct, and show no signs of deception. She passes with flying colors. Her alibi is solid. She was asleep. No one saw her leave the house. The security system log confirms no one else entered or left the house after the alarm was armed. But here is the most confounding detail. Her alibi is too perfect. In the world of true crime, a perfect alibi is often the first thing to be distrusted. It's like a flawless diamond. It's so perfect, you have to wonder if it's real. There's no ambiguity, no contradiction, nothing to challenge. It's a wall of silence that seems to be built of truth, yet feels utterly false. The key question remained. How did Eleanor Finch, a woman who claims to know nothing, manage to present a story that is so flawless, so unassailable? Is she a master manipulator, a grieving widow with a secret? Or is she just what she appears to be, a victim of a bizarre and unexplainable event? Her calm demeanor and perfect alibi are a puzzle in themselves, a silent challenge to your every assumption. With Eleanor Finch's alibi proving to be a perfect, unbreachable wall, you shift your attention to the next logical suspect. Arthur's longtime business partner, Marcus Thorne. Marcus is an architect in his own right, but he's always been in Finch's shadow, the practical counterpoint to Finch's wild artistic genius. You arrange a meeting at his downtown office, a sterile, high-rise space that feels a world away from Finch's isolated mansion. When you walk in, you notice the office is surprisingly empty. Most of the desks are cleared, and a few boxes are stacked in the corner. You ask him about it, and he explains, with a strained, practiced smile, that he had resigned from the partnership 3 weeks prior to Finch's disappearance. He claims it was an amicable split, that he simply wanted to pursue his own projects and was tired of the relentless pace of working with a perfectionist. Like Finch, this is a bizarre detail that raises all sorts of red flags. Why resign from a successful, high-profile partnership and then go completely quiet about it? The timing feels far too coincidental. You bring up the wellness check he called in. He explains that he had been trying to reach Finch for days to discuss the final details of their split and the dissolution of their partnership. When his calls went unanswered, he grew concerned and made the call. He sounds genuinely worried, but there's a certain rehearsed quality to his grief, performance that feels slightly off. You're a detective in a true crime story, and you've learned to trust your gut when a detail just doesn't feel right. A standard police procedure at this point is to conduct a background check on the suspect. You'd have a team run a deep dive into Marcus Thorne's financial records, his personal life, and any past legal issues. You're looking for motive, a recent debt, a failed business venture, a secret feud that could have led to a violent confrontation. What you find is a pristine record, a man who has lived a quiet, unremarkable life. No debts, no grudges, no dark secrets. His history is as clean as his new, empty office. But the key question remained. Why did Marcus Thorne truly resign from the partnership, and why was he so cagey about it? Was it truly an amicable split, or was there a hidden conflict, a secret that drove a wedge between the two men? The timing of his resignation just before Finch's disappearance feels less like a coincidence and more like a carefully planned move. A way to distance himself from a crime before it even happened? Was Finch planning to reveal something about Marcus, a secret that would have ruined him? The conversation with Marcus Thorne leaves you with more questions than answers. His calm demeanor and believable story are disquieting. He seems too eager to help, too willing to provide information. He's the classic red herring, the suspect who fits the profile so perfectly that he must be hiding something. And as you walk out of his office, you can shake the feeling that you just spoke to a man who holds a key piece of the puzzle, a man who knows far more than he's letting on. You're back at the Finch mansion, this time with a team of forensic experts. The search is no longer for a body, but for a clue, a single, out-of-place detail that the initial investigation might have missed. The focus is on the construction of the house itself. You're operating under the assumption that if Arthur Finch, a master architect, was going to disappear, he would do so using the tools and materials of his trade. You're no longer looking for a simple crime, you're looking for an architectural puzzle. One of the more bizarre details of this true crime investigation is the sheer number of samples the team takes. They're not just swabbing surfaces for DNA, they're taking core samples from the concrete, shaving off slivers of the drywall, and even meticulously scraping the grout from the bathroom tiles. It's an obsessive, almost mad pursuit of information hidden in the very bones of the house. And it's in one of these core samples that a fascinating and deeply strange piece of evidence is found. The sample, taken from a supporting column in the living room, is sent to a specialized lab for analysis. The report comes back with an astonishing finding, embedded within the concrete mix. Invisible to the naked eye are tiny metallic fibers, no larger than a grain of sand. This is a very quirky detail. When the lab analyzes the fibers, they find that they're not just random detritus. They're a series of numbers and letters, almost like a microscopic code. The fibers were intentionally mixed into the concrete during the pouring process, a silent message hidden in plain sight. A mainstream forensic fact you learn is that concrete core sampling is a routine procedure used in construction and engineering to test the strength and integrity of a structure. But in a criminal investigation, it takes on a whole new meaning. It's a way of looking for hidden signatures, for intentional additions that were meant to be discovered only by a person with a specific tool and a specific purpose. This discovery completely changes the focus of the investigation. Finch wasn't just building a house, he was embedding information into it, a series of breadcrumbs meant for someone to follow. But who? The code is a jumble of what looks like architectural designators and mathematical equations. It's too complex to be a simple phone number or a bank account. It's more like a formula, a set of instructions. It's a key to a lock you haven't found yet. The discovery of this hidden code suggests that Finch's disappearance wasn't a sudden event, but a meticulously planned vanishing act. It's a detective story that's unfolding in the form of a scavenger hunt. The key question remained. What did the code mean? And was there more of it hidden throughout the house? You're left with a sense of both frustration and excitement. This isn't a case of a brute force crime. It's a battle of wits with a brilliant, methodical mind who has managed to disappear and leave behind an impossible trail of clues. The hidden code in the concrete has completely reframed the investigation. You're no longer looking for a kidnapper or a murderer. You're looking for a collaborator, someone who would have been able to help Arthur Finch design his disappearance. And this line of inquiry leads you to the last person you'd expect, a secret apprentice. It turns out that Finch wasn't just a reclusive genius. He was also a mentor to a young architectural prodigy named Leo Vance. He's a sharp, quiet young man barely in his 20s who had been studying under Finch for the past 2 years. His role was kept under wraps, a bizarre detail Finch insisted upon, claiming it was to shield Leo from the pressures of the industry. You track Leo down to a small, cluttered studio apartment in the city, a space overflowing with blueprints, architectural models, and books. He seems genuinely distraught by Finch's disappearance, but he's also surprisingly reticent. He claims he hasn't spoken to Finch in a week, a period he attributes to a disagreement over a design. When you ask him about the secret apprenticeship, his face goes pale. He admits that Finch had been teaching him a very specific type of architecture, one that focused not on buildings, but on impossible spaces, hidden rooms, secret passages, and architectural illusions. This is a crucial piece of information. Finch wasn't just a designer, he was a master of misdirection. A police procedure you'd immediately initiate is a search warrant for Leo's apartment and his computer. You're looking for any files, any notes, any correspondence that would link him to Finch's disappearance. You're looking for evidence of their secret work, the kind of things that would be kept off the grid. What you find is a treasure trove of digital file schematics for hidden rooms, blueprints for false walls, and designs for secret subbasement levels. One of the files is even labeled The Grand Escape, but the most bizarre detail is a small hand-drawn sketch found tucked inside a book on ancient Egyptian labyrinths. It's a drawing of the Finch mansion, but with a series of lines and arrows leading from the study to a small, unmarked area in the garden. It's a simple map, but it's drawn in a language you're just beginning to understand. It's a blueprint for an escape, a path out of a fortress that no one would have thought to check. The key question remained: was Leo Vance a co-conspirator, student who helped his master vanish, or was he just another one of Finch's pawns, a tool in a larger, more elaborate game? His fear and his knowledge of Finch's unusual work place him in the center of this unsolved mystery. You're left with the unnerving feeling that you're not just chasing a missing person, you're chasing an idea, an architectural fantasy brought to life. The trail of breadcrumbs left by Arthur Finch, this unsolved mystery, has led you to a hidden room. You're back at the Finch mansion, this time with the help of Leo Vance, the secret apprentice. He's nervous, but the drawing he provided has given you a new way to look at the house. You're no longer just looking at a home, you're looking at a puzzle box. The sketch showed a hidden space, a cavity behind a built-in bookshelf in the library, a space that was not on the original blueprints for the house. The library itself is a monument to Finch's intellect, with a vast collection of books on everything from classical architecture to obscure codes and ciphers. A police procedure you'd use to find a hidden space like this is a thermal scan or ground-penetrating radar. These tools can detect variations in temperature or density behind a wall, revealing a hidden cavity. The thermal scan confirms what Leo's drawing suggested. A space approximately 5 feet by 5 feet is located behind the bookshelf, a pocket of air that shouldn't be there. With the proper warrant, you and the team carefully remove the shelf, revealing a simple wooden door. It's unmarked, has no handle, and no keyhole. It is a masterpiece of concealment, designed to be found only by someone who knew what they were looking for. You're a detective in a true crime story, and you feel the psychological tension building. The door opens to a small, dark antechamber. The air inside is stale and smells of dust and old paper. The light from your flashlight cuts through the darkness, illuminating what can only be described as a bizarre collection of antique tools. There are old drafting instruments, a large compass, and a variety of specialized hammers and chisels. They look like the tools of a craftsman from another era, a weird and unsettling detail. But the most important object is sitting on a small wooden pedestal in the center of the room. It's a map, not a blueprint, not a schematic, but an old hand-drawn map on yellowing vellum. The same paper as the note found in Finch's study. The map is of the local area, but it's marked with a series of strange symbols and annotations, as if it was drawn by a man from another time. It's a key to a new part of the puzzle, a breadcrumb leading to a new location. It's the kind of thing that makes a true crime case famous, a unique and bizarre clue that defies easy explanation. The key question remained: why would a modern architect, a master of digital design, leave behind a map drawn by hand with antique tools? Was this a message to you, a new detective on the case, to show you the old ways of detective work? You re-left with the unsettling feeling that you are playing a game with a man who has already won. The map is your only hope of finding him, or at least his next move. And you can't shake the feeling that he wanted you to find it. The hand-drawn map you found in the secret room has led you to an unlikely place for a true crime investigation. A decaying, abandoned building on the outskirts of town. The air here is heavy with the smell of mold and forgotten history. The map points to a specific location within the building, a place marked with a symbol that you now recognize as a variation of Finch. Use unique architectural designator. This is the kind of a clue a detective story is built on, a single thread that, when pulled, begins to unravel the entire mystery. You and your team arrive at the location, a sprawling, derelict asylum that was shuttered decades ago. The place is a monument to forgotten pain, and as you walk through its echoing hallways, you're hit with a sense of methodical suspense. The map leads you to the building's old administrative wing, a section that Finch's firm had been contracted to renovate years ago before the project was abruptly canceled. This is a crucial piece of contextual information. Why was the project canceled, and what was Finch doing here? A police procedure you'd undertake at this point is a forensic sweep of the area, looking for any sign that Finch was recently here. You're looking for footprints, for recent disturbances, for any sign that the place had been entered since it was last sealed off. You find nothing. The dust is thick and undisturbed, the cobwebs are ancient, and the air is heavy with the stillness of years. It's as if Finch had never been here. And then you notice a strange detail. On a wall in what used to be the head administrator's office, a small, intricate drawing is etched into the plaster. It's a diagram of a simple lock, and beside it is the same geometric symbol that was on the bookmark in Finch's book. It's a drawing that is not from the building's original design, and it is clearly made with a modern tool. This bizarre detail suggests that someone has been here recently, leaving a new clue in a very old place. It's a message from the missing architect, a ghost in the walls of this unsolved mystery. The key question remained: why would Finch lead you to a place with no new clues, only an old one? Was this simply a stop on a larger journey, a way of testing your ability to follow his cryptic trail? Or was the entire point of the exercise to make you realize that the clues weren't just about finding him, but about understanding his unique way of thinking? You are left with the chilling sensation that you are not the hunter, but the hunted, a pawn in Finch's grand game. The old asylum has revealed its first secret, a hidden message from the past. Your next step, guided by the bizarre detail of the etching, is a methodical deep dive into the asylum's archives, a dusty, forgotten room filled with patient files and administrative records. It's here that you find something truly peculiar. The records are meticulously organized, but one file is completely out of place, tucked away in a folder labeled Building Renovation Notes. It's the file of a patient named Elias Vance. The last name, Vance, immediately catches your attention. Could this be a relative of Finch's apprentice, Leo Vance? It's a compelling link, a potential key to this complex detective story. Elias Vance was a patient in the asylum in the 1970s. He was an architectural student who suffered from a series of psychological breaks brought on by what his doctors called a pathological obsession with impossible spaces. The patient's journal entries, which are bizarrely detailed, describe his constant struggle to escape not from the asylum, but from his own mind. He believed he was trapped in a metaphorical labyrinth, and that the only way to escape was to design his way out. He would draw blueprints on every surface he could find, including the walls of his cell, a strange and unsettling detail that mirrors the etching you found. This unsolved mystery is beginning to feel like a multi-generational puzzle, a standard police procedure you'd perform. Here is to cross-reference the handwriting in Elias Vance's journal with the drawing on the wall of the asylum. A forensic handwriting expert confirms your suspicion. The etching was made by the same hand that wrote the journal. This proves that the etching wasn't a recent creation, but a historical artifact, a piece of a larger story. It suggests that Finch's interest in the asylum wasn't just professional, it was personal. He was here looking for something, a clue left by a man who was obsessed with the same kind of architectural puzzles that Finch was. But the most bizarre detail is that the patient's file contains a single, carefully preserved letter from a young Arthur Finch. The letter is a request for a private audience with Elias, expressing Finch's profound admiration for Vance's revolutionary theories on the geometry of escape. The letter is dated just a few months before the asylum was shuttered. This is the crucial link. Finch wasn't just renovating the building. He was studying a man, a mind that was obsessed with the kind of disappearing act that he himself just performed. The key question remained: what did Arthur Finch learn from Elias Vance? Did he find a way to make his own physical escape, or did he simply find inspiration in a man's tortured delusions? You're left with the unnerving feeling that you're not just chasing a missing person. You're following a ghost, a brilliant mind that has been a ghost for decades, and that Finch's disappearance is the final bizarre act of a play that began long ago. The journey into the mind of Elias Vance has become a crucial part of this unsolved mystery. You're now back in your office, poring over photocopies of his journal, a chilling and meticulous document that reads like a blueprint for a phantom reality. The journal entries are not just ramblings. They are highly specific and technical, detailing what Elias called his escape from the labyrinth of the mind. He describes a methodical process of deconstruction and reassembly, of creating what he called architectural ghosts, buildings or rooms that only exist in the mind of the architect. This detective story has taken a psychological turn, and it's becoming clear that you're not just dealing with a missing person, but a bizarre psychological experiment. The most bizarre detail in the journal is a series of recurring drawings, an impossible staircase that leads back to the same landing, a room with 5 walls and no roof, and a series of geometric symbols that are eerily similar to the one you found on Finch's bookmark. Elias believed that by meticulously designing these impossible spaces, he was training his mind to perceive reality differently, to see the hidden doors and secret passages that everyone else missed. It was a bizarre and ingenious method, and it was a direct parallel to Finch's work. A crucial police procedure you'd perform at this stage is a psychological profile of Elias Vance and, by extension, Arthur Finch. You'd have a forensic psychologist analyze the journal entries, looking for patterns of thought, psychological triggers, and any signs of a shared delusion. The report would come back with a startling conclusion. Both men displayed a high degree of what is known as aphantasia inversa, the inability to imagine anything but a meticulously planned multidimensional space. It is a condition that turns the mind of a person into a blueprint for a disappearing act. The key question remained, was Finch's disappearance a physical act? Or was it a form of metaphorical escape, a final act of psychological liberation? You're left with the unsettling feeling that Finch wasn't hiding in a secret room or running away to a new identity. He was simply living out a fantasy he had meticulously designed for himself, a fantasy he had learned from a madman. The trail of breadcrumbs left by Arthur Finch and the disturbing journal of Elias Vance have led you to a chilling discovery. Finch wasn't the first architect to perform a disappearing act. A small, almost forgotten news clipping from a historical society. Archives tells the story of a similar unsolved mystery from decades ago. The article, yellowed with age, describes the strange case of a renowned architect named Harold Crane, who in 1948 vanished from his heavily fortified brownstone in Boston without a trace. The parallels are eerie and unsettling, turning this true crime case into a historical detective story. You're a detective trying to make sense of this bizarre coincidence. Crane's case, much like Finch's, involved a meticulously secured home with no signs of forced entry or struggle. His safe was also found open and empty, and a cryptic note was left behind. A final message that simply read, "The building is complete." This is a bizarre detail that cannot be a coincidence. It's an identical phrase, a shared signature that spans generations, connecting a modern vanishing act to a historical one. A crucial police procedure you'd perform at this point is a cold case review. You'd have a team of researchers and investigators dig through the archives of the Boston Police Department, looking for any files, any notes, or any photographs from the original investigation. You're looking for anything that might have been overlooked, any detail that might shed light on how Crane managed to disappear. The old files are a treasure trove of forgotten information, including a sketch of a bizarre multi-level blueprint that a detective at the time dismissed as the ramblings of a madman. It's a blueprint for a building that can't exist. A series of impossible spaces, eerily similar to the designs you found on Finch's computer. But the most confounding detail is that Crane, much like Finch, had a secret apprentice, a young architectural student who had worked for him for years. A man who, after the disappearance, simply vanished from the city and was never heard from again. It's a chilling parallel, a symmetrical pattern that suggests this isn't a simple crime, but a ritual, a meticulously planned event that has happened before and perhaps will happen again. The key question remained, was there a hidden society of architects who were passing on the secret of a disappearing act through the generations? This isn't just a simple detective story anymore. It's a deep dive into a dark, secret history. You are left with the unsettling feeling that you are not just chasing a missing person, but an idea. A concept that has haunted the architectural world for generations. The realization that Finch's disappearance is a historical echo, a true crime cold case repeating itself, sends you back to the Finch mansion with a new theory. If the blueprint of a disappearing architect has happened before, the answers must be in the physical spaces they created. You and your team, with the help of ground-penetrating radar, are now focused on a small walled-off section of the Finch property's garden. A peculiar detail about the property that was initially overlooked was the single, monolithic concrete slab that served as the base for a small, Japanese-inspired garden and fountain. It was a recent addition, a bizarre detail that stood out in an otherwise historical landscape. The radar confirms your suspicion. There is a large, hollow cavity beneath the slab, a space that seems to be a recent addition. With a warrant in hand, a construction team is called in to break through the concrete. The work is methodical, painstaking, and the suspense is palpable. As the jackhammers tear into the concrete, you're no longer just looking for a body. You're looking for a clue, a last message from a man who planned his escape with the precision of a master architect. The sound of the machinery is loud and jarring, stark contrast to the eerie silence that has defined this unsolved mystery so far. The rhythmic thudding of the jackhammers feels like a countdown, and every strike against the concrete feels like a step closer to the truth. The cavity is finally breached. The air that rushes out is stale and smells of earth and damp concrete. Inside, the space is not empty. There is a small, hermetically sealed box, a bizarre detail that defies logical explanation. A box in a hole under a slab of concrete in a garden that was recently built. It is an intentional time capsule. This is where Finch's trail of breadcrumbs was leading, a physical manifestation of his elaborate game. A crucial police procedure at this point is to secure and process the contents of the box. A forensic team will meticulously open the box, looking for fingerprints, DNA, and any trace evidence that could link it to a specific person. The box contains 3 items: a small, sealed bottle containing a single, handwritten note, a high-end digital recorder, and a copy of the blueprint for the very building you're standing on, the Finch mansion, but with a series of new, bizarre annotations. The note is a taunt, a simple message scrawled on the same vellum paper you found in the study. The house is not the home. The home is not the person, and the person is no more. It's a cryptic and unsettling message that feels like the final act of a madman. The key question remained. Was the architect's disappearance a final, perfect escape from his life, or was it a final act of self-destruction? You are left with the chilling sensation that you are not just a detective on a case, but an audience to a play that has been meticulously planned for years. The sealed box from the cavity beneath the garden has provided a new set of clues, and your investigation now pivots to the digital recorder found inside. The device is old, a model from the early 2000s, but it's in pristine condition. A forensic audio technician is able to retrieve the single 3-minute recording. As the playback begins, the air in the lab feels heavy with anticipation. The recording isn't of Finch's voice. It's a chillingly serene, almost hypnotic narrative. A voice you've heard before, the voice of Elias Vance from an old archival recording. This unsolved mystery is getting more bizarre by the minute. The voice on the recording is a low, methodical whisper, filled with a certain detached clinical pride. It speaks of a secret society of builders, a group that passed down the true art of architecture, not the art of building, but the art of deconstruction, of disappearing. He calls them the Keepers of the Impossible Door, a group of master architects who, for generations, have been perfecting the art of a perfect vanishing act. The group's ritual, he explains, is to design their own escape, to create a final, grand project that is not a building, but a new life, a new identity. This is a bizarre detail that pushes the case from a true crime investigation into the realm of a secret society. A crucial police procedure at this point is a voice print analysis. You'd have the audio compared to the archival recording of Elias Vance to confirm the voice is indeed his. The voice print is a perfect match. This proves that the secret society is not a myth. It is a real, ongoing phenomenon. He was part of something larger, something that had been passed down for generations. The recording is a chilling manifesto. Vance speaks of his own escape, of the perfect building that he designed for himself, a new life he was about to enter. He ends the recording with a final, eerie message. The key to the impossible door is not in the physical world, but in the walls between them. The key question remained: were the architects truly disappearing, or were they being helped along to their demise by this society? The digital recording has revealed the existence of the keepers of the impossible door, a secret society of architects. This revelation adds a profound and chilling new layer to this unsolved mystery, turning it from a simple missing persons case into a deep dive into a generational esoteric tradition. Your next move is to find Finch's estranged daughter, Clara. She's a successful artist who, according to her social media, has not spoken to her father in years. This is a crucial piece of this true crime puzzle. You read a detective who knows that a family dispute can often be the catalyst for something much darker. You track her down to her art gallery in the city, a place of chaotic, vibrant expression that is a stark contrast to her father's methodical, sterile architecture. She is reluctant to speak to you, her voice laced with a deep-seated resentment. She confirms the estrangement, a break that happened 5 years ago after her father had a nervous breakdown. This is a crucial piece of information. Finch wasn't a stable, reclusive genius. He was a man teetering on the edge. She gives you a chilling account of her father's final days. She says he became paranoid, obsessed with the idea that he was being watched. He began talking in what she called architectural riddles, using terms like load-bearing lies and the structural integrity of the self. This is a bizarre detail that supports your theory that Finch's disappearance was not a crime, but a meticulously planned event, a final performance. She also reveals that he began building a miniature of his own home in the garden, a small replica made of concrete and glass. A quirky detail that suggests Finch was creating a model of his escape. A crucial police procedure you'd perform at this point is a forensic psychological analysis of Finch's behavior. You'd would have a team of psychologists and profilers analyze her testimony, looking for signs of a break from reality, or perhaps a sign of a new, alternate personality. The analysis would reveal a man obsessed with control, a man who, when he began to lose control, decided to reclaim it in the most theatrical way possible by erasing himself. But the key question remained: why would a man who had everything, fame, fortune, family, choose to erase himself from existence? What was he running from? You left with the unsettling feeling that you are not just a detective on a case, but a witness to a final, tragic act, a man's perfect escape from a world he no longer wanted to be a part of. The investigation into this unsolved mystery has taken a bizarre turn, and the final piece of this complex puzzle may have been right under everyone's nose all along. Your search of Arthur Finch's business partner, Marcus Thorne, yielded a crucial and bizarre detail. You find a discarded answering machine tape from Thorne's office, a piece of obsolete technology that was overlooked in the initial investigation. The tape contains a single 3-minute message from Finch, left on the day of his disappearance. The message, on the surface, is a rambling, almost nonsensical series of architectural terms and platitudes. He talks about load-bearing narratives and the need for a solid foundation to a life's work. It's the kind of cryptic conversation you've come to expect from Finch, but a forensic audio expert listens to the message with a new theory in mind. A forensic file of sorts. They run the audio through a series of filters, looking for any hidden messages, any strange frequencies, or any background noise that might be a clue. The result is astonishing. The voice is Finch's, but what he's saying is a meticulously coded message, plea for help hidden in the language of his trade. He talks about a fault in the foundation, which in architectural terms is a critical structural flaw, but in the context of the message, it's a plea for help. He says the walls are closing in, and the plans have been altered, a chilling reference to a plot that has gone wrong. This is a bizarre and chilling detail that completely changes the narrative of this true crime case. Finch wasn't a willing participant in his disappearance. He was being forced to play a game against his will. A crucial police procedure you'd perform at this point is a voice stress analysis. You'd have the audio analyzed for any changes in pitch, tone, or frequency that might indicate a high level of stress or duress. The analysis would reveal a man who is calm, but his words are laced with a deep-seated fear. He's a man who knows he is in trouble, but he is a man who is too proud and too brilliant to simply ask for help. He is a man who would rather encode a plea for help in the language of his craft. The key question remained. Who was forcing Arthur Finch to play this game? Was it a member of the secret society he was part of? Someone who had decided that he wasn't a worthy member? This discovery completely changes your perspective on the case. It is no longer a puzzle to be solved, but a desperate act of survival. A final message from a brilliant mind who has been cornered by a greater force. The revelation of the coded phone message has completely shifted the focus of this unsolved mystery, and it leads you to a new and bizarre piece of evidence. Your investigation now turns to a set of Finch's personal blueprints, his passion projects that he kept separate from his professional work. He stored them on an encrypted hard drive in his study, a drive that the tech team has finally been able to crack. You open the file to find not a single blueprint, but a series of 23 separate transparent overlays. This is a bizarre detail that defies traditional architecture. It's a key piece of the detective story. As a detective, you have a feeling these are not just drawings, but something more. You reminded of a historical technique used for hiding messages, the use of overlays to create a single image. You have the team print the blueprints onto transparent sheets, and following the file's annotations, you begin to layer them. The process is methodical, painstaking, and the suspense is palpable. Each sheet is placed over the last, and a new, intricate drawing begins to take shape. It's an optical illusion, a grand and complex piece of art that slowly reveals itself. The final image is a detailed map of the city's underground storm drain system, labyrinthine network of tunnels and pipes. But the map is not just of the tunnels. It has a series of small geometric symbols marked at various points, symbols that you now recognize as Finch's personal designator. This is the ultimate clue, a literal map of his escape route. It is a stunning piece of detective work, a revelation that turns this true crime case from a simple missing persons investigation to a massive citywide manhunt. A crucial police procedure at this point is a grid search of the city's underground tunnels. You'd have a team of officers and investigators descend into the tunnels using the map as their guide. They're not looking for a man. They're looking for a series of clues, for any sign that Finch was here. They'll be looking for footprints, for discarded items, for any sign that the man was here. But the key question remained. Was this a map for his escape, or was it a map for his death? The coded message from the phone suggests he was being forced to move, but the sheer complexity of the plan suggests that he had a way out. You are left with the chilling feeling that you are not just a detective on a case, but a player in a game of life and death, and the board has just been revealed. The search of Arthur Finch's private belongings has yielded a series of extraordinary clues. From the coded phone message to the optical illusion blueprints, your investigation now turns back to Finch's apprentice. Leo Vance, you're a detective who knows that in a true crime case, a crucial piece of evidence is often hidden in plain sight. In your second search of his studio, a search that is more meticulous than the first, you find a small, leather-bound book hidden beneath a loose floorboard. The book is an old architectural journal filled with sketches and notes, a bizarre detail that seems out of place with Leo's modern, minimalist style. As you flip through the pages, you find a chilling discovery. Tucked inside the last page, there is a small, ornate key, a very peculiar and unique object, made of what appears to be a very old, tarnished silver. It has a geometric symbol carved into its head, symbol that is identical to the one you found on the bookmark in Finch's book and in the etching on the asylum wall. This is a crucial piece of physical evidence, a literal key to the mystery. A crucial police procedure you'd perform at this point is a forensic analysis of the key. You'd have the key dusted for fingerprints and tested for any trace DNA. You'd also have a metallurgist analyze the material it's made of to determine its age and origin. The fingerprints on the key are a perfect match for both Arthur Finch and Leo Vance. This is a stunning revelation. It proves that Leo was not just a pawn in Finch's game. He was a direct participant, a co-conspirator. The analysis of the key's metal reveals it to be over 100 years old, suggesting it was passed down through generations. This links Leo to the secret society of architects, but the key question remained. What did the key open? You now have a key but no lock. You have a suspect but no confession. The key is a physical manifestation of this unsolved mystery, a symbol of the secrets that are hidden in plain sight. You are left with the chilling feeling that you are closing in on the truth, but the man you are looking for is already 10 steps ahead. The discovery of the key has turned Leo Vance from a sympathetic victim into a prime suspect. But the pieces of the puzzle don't fit perfectly. You're a detective in a true crime case that has been built on deceit and illusion, and you know there must be more. Your attention turns back to the first person you interviewed, the one with the perfect alibi, Eleanor Finch, the grieving widow. You feel a sense of psychological suspense as you approach her for a second interview. Her calm demeanor, once so convincing, now feels like a meticulously constructed lie. You show her the picture of the key found with Leo Vance. Her expression doesn't change, but a subtle tremor passes through her hands. This is the crack you've been looking for, a bizarre detail that betrays her composure. She finally confesses to a secret she had been keeping for years. Arthur was obsessed with the idea of the secret society and the perfect escape. He was not just an architect. He was a man who believed he could design his way out of his own life. The nervous breakdown Clara mentioned was actually a deliberate and planned withdrawal from society, step in his grand design. This revelation reframes the entire narrative of this unsolved mystery. A crucial police procedure at this point is a forensic psychological analysis of Eleanor's confession. You'd have a psychologist analyze her statements, looking for any signs of a shared delusion or an unstated motive. The analysis would reveal a woman who was a willing accomplice, a partner in her husband's theatrical disappearance. She knew about the secret society, and she knew about the key. Her alibi was not a coincidence. It was a performance, a carefully planned piece of misdirection to give Finch enough time to complete his final act. But the key question remained. If Eleanor was a willing accomplice, why was she now turning against him? Was it a change of heart, a moment of weakness, or was it a final act of betrayal? The truth begins to unravel, revealing a story of ambition, obsession, and a final grand performance. You're left with the unsettling feeling that everyone in this detective story is playing a part. And the final scene is just beginning. Eleanor's confession has exposed the truth. Arthur Finch's final project was not a building at all. It was an escape plan. This unsolved mystery is not about a disappearance. It's about a man who meticulously designed his own death. Eleanor reveals that her husband was not a willing participant in the secret society of architects. He was a master, yes, but he was a man who grew weary of their strange, esoteric traditions and their obsession with impossible spaces. He had tried to leave the society, but they would not let him go. This is a crucial piece of this true crime puzzle. He wasn't running away. He was being forced to disappear. His final project was a grand illusion, a performance designed to fool both the police and his captors. The blueprints with the optical illusions, the coded phone messages, and the bizarre notes were all part of a larger plan to lead a detective down a rabbit hole, a path that would make his death seem like a pre-planned vanishing act. The final project, he told Eleanor, was to create the perfect illusion of a man who willingly erased himself, a phantom who walked away from his life. He was designing his own ghost story, a final piece of art that would secure his legacy in the secret society, while also giving him a chance to get away. This is a chilling detail that completely reframes the entire narrative. A crucial police procedure you'd perform at this point is a forensic analysis of the phone message, a deeper dive into the coded message. You'd have a team of linguists and cryptographers analyze the message, not for the obvious meaning, but for any hidden psychological clues. The analysis would reveal a man who was using the language of his craft as a final, desperate act of defiance. He was a man who, when faced with an impossible situation, decided to fight back with the only weapon he had, his mind. But the key question remained. If this was all a grand act, was there a real physical escape route, or was it a final act of self-destruction? You were left with the unsettling feeling that you are not just a detective on a case, but an audience to a play that is far more sinister than you ever imagined. Eleanor's perfect alibi, once a wall of unbreachable lies, begins to crumble under the weight of her own confession. You're a detective in a true crime case that has been built on deceit and illusion, and you know there must be more to her story. You press her on the details of the secret society, and her husband's planned disappearance. She insists that Finch is still alive and in hiding. She claims that she helped him because she was afraid for his life, not because she wanted him to leave. She says that the society was pressuring him, that they were a dark, malevolent force that would not let him go. This is a bizarre detail that defies logical explanation. She has already confessed to being an accomplice, but her insistence that he is still alive feels less like a lie and more like a desperate final act of faith. She describes his final message to her, a single sentence that he whispered to her before he left. The key is in the garden. She says she didn't understand what it meant, but she believed it was a sign that he had a way out. This is a crucial piece of this unsolved mystery, a final breadcrumb that he left for her, a final sign of his love, or perhaps his betrayal. A crucial police procedure you'd perform at this point is a polygraph test on Eleanor again. This time with a new set of questions focused on her belief that Finch is still alive. The results are a stunning and bizarre revelation. Her answers show no sign of deception. She genuinely believes he is alive and in hiding. This suggests that she is either a master manipulator or she is telling the truth. You are left with a new kind of dilemma. If she is telling the truth, then this isn't a murder case. It's a massive citywide manhunt. But the key question remained. Was her belief a final piece of his grand plan? A way of giving her hope so that she would not break and reveal the truth? Or was she, too, a victim? A pawn in a game that was far more sinister than she could ever comprehend? You are left with the unsettling feeling that you are not just a detective on a case, but a player in a game of life and death, and the final moves are just beginning. Eleanor's desperate plea has led you back to the Finch Mansion's garden, a place you've already meticulously searched. But now, with a new lens of possibility, you're a detective looking for a detail that was overlooked. The key, she said, was in the garden. This is a crucial piece of this unsolved mystery, a final breadcrumb from a man who may have staged his own death. You're no longer looking for a grand clue. You're looking for something small, something that was meant to be missed. The manicured garden is a testament to Finch's obsession with control. Every plant, every stone, every bit of foliage is in its place. But a crucial piece of information comes from a landscaper who worked on the property. He tells you about a single patch of what Finch called wild rosemary. A bizarre detail that was planted in the middle of a perfectly manicured lawn. A detail that was meant to stand out and at the same time blend in. He remembers Finch being obsessive about this one plant, tending to it himself and instructing the landscaper never to touch it. This is the detail you've been looking for. A crucial police procedure you'd perform at this point is a forensic search of the plant. You and your team carefully dig up the rosemary bush looking for any sign of a hidden compartment, a hidden key, or a hidden message. You're looking for a final piece of evidence from a man who, if he is still alive, is a ghost. You find nothing at first, just soil and roots. But as you dig deeper, you find a small, hermetically sealed vial, a bizarre detail that feels out of place with the natural world. The vial contains a single, carefully folded piece of paper. You open it to find a final, elegant note from Arthur Finch. It's a simple sentence. The next move is yours. It is a final taunt, a final message from a man who has managed to disappear from the world. But the key question remained. Was this a taunt from beyond the grave, a final act of a man who died in his escape? Or was it a final message to you, a new detective on the case, a message that he is still out there, playing the final moves of a game that only he knows the rules to? You are left with the chilling feeling that you are not just a detective on a case, but a player in a game of life and death, and the final moves are just beginning. The note from the garden, the next move, is yours. Is a direct challenge from Finch, a tantalizing invitation to a final, grand act. This unsolved mystery has become a high-stakes game of cat and mouse, and you're the mouse. Your attention now turns to the final blueprint from Finch's personal hard drive, a blueprint that, when layered with the others, forms a complex optical illusion. But this blueprint is different. It's not of a building or a tunnel system, it's of a theatrical stage. It's a drawing of a stage, a curtain, a single spotlight, and a set of intricate rigging. This is a bizarre and chilling detail that suggests Finch's final act was not just an escape. It was a performance. As a detective, you realize that all the previous clues, they're ransacked safe. The cryptic note, the bizarre code, and the concrete, were all part of a single, grand theatrical performance. The hidden rooms were not for hiding, they were for staging. The coded messages were not for communicating, they were for dramatic effect. Finch wasn't designing a building, he was designing his own disappearing act, a final, theatrical exit from his old life. This is the heart of this true crime case. A crucial police procedure you'd perform at this point is a forensic analysis of the stage blueprint. You'd have a team of theatrical experts and engineers analyze the drawing, looking for any signs of a trapdoor, a hidden elevator, or a secret passage. The analysis would reveal a complex theatrical rigging system designed for a grand and impossible escape. It's a design for a man who wants to vanish in a cloud of smoke and a flash of light. But the key question remained. If this was a theatrical performance, where did he perform it? Was there a final stage, a final place where he would enact his final act? You were left with the unsettling feeling that you are not just a detective on a case, but an audience to a play that is far more sinister than you ever imagined. The final blueprint has led you to a single, desolate place, the old theater that Finch's firm was contracted to renovate years ago. Project that was mysteriously canceled. This is the stage for his final act, the place where the ghost of a man would be born. The theater is old and crumbling, a monument to a past that never was. You walk onto the stage, your footsteps echoing in the silence. The single spotlight from Finch's blueprint is a literal light in the dark. It is a haunting and chilling detail that suggests Finch was not just a designer, was a master showman, a man who would leave a final, grand performance. The stage is empty, but there is a small, ornate key left in the middle of the stage, the same key from the apprentice's studio. But this time, a small note is attached to it. The note simply reads, "The lock is in the past." It is a final taunt from a man who has managed to outsmart you at every turn. You realize that the key doesn't open a lock in the theater. It opens a lock in the past, a lock that holds the secret of his escape, a lock that will never be found. The wind down begins here. The stage is still, the curtains are drawn, and the silence is a profound and somber presence. There is no triumph, no final revelation. Only the knowledge that a man, a brilliant, complicated man, managed to perform the perfect disappearing act. He is gone, a phantom who exists only in the memories of those he left behind. The case is cold, a true crime that will never be solved. The detective story is over, but the mystery will live on forever. The story of Arthur Finch, the vanishing architect, is a testament to the fact that some mysteries are not meant to be solved. They are meant to be felt, to be experienced, to be a testament to a mind so brilliant, so twisted, that it could design a final exit from a world it no longer wanted to be a part of. The key is in the past, the lock is forever sealed, and the phantom of Arthur Finch will continue to haunt the empty spaces he designed, a ghost in a house he built himself. Take a deep breath, dim the lights, and let the mystery linger.